be a top from VRX, and
Mm.
that really made my week. So I hope we can get something similar, especially into Guigo, who has been a real carry for Red Canids.
Uh, he has, and I think that I personally rate Guigo higher than Parang for Flamenco. It's just a personal opinion. I
Oh.
think that Red Canids have got better solo lanes than Flamenco, interestingly, but maybe just the macro lacking is maybe where I see that Canids are struggling a little bit. But that's just my own personal opinion right here, and that's why I'm looking toward Titan to step up to the mark of the rest of his team here. I think, and obviously coming down up against Matsukaze, he's got a good opportunity to prove himself, to say what's up and really challenge here to put himself above the rest of the pack of the ADCs. I feel like he's maybe a little bit not middling necessarily, but not quite on the same level that we see from Flamenco.
No, not just yet. And I honestly, this is the first time that we're going to get to see these two teams match up against each other. Vorax, Red Canids, and Red Canids have seemed like they are indomitable, save for Flamengo. I might raise that this game. I feel like Vorax actually have a significant chance of taking them down. The way that Red Canids like to play is scrappy, but so is the way that Vorax like to play, and I feel like they thrive in that chaos just that extra bit more.
And this is going to be the question then of which, not this isn't a question of style, it's a
Mm.
question of substance. Which team can do their thing better, and who's going to come out on top of it? And if you look at the standings, you would say obviously Red Kalunga, they are the ones that are above there. They're going to be the ones that are looking stronger moving forward. But with the way that this draft has developed, you can see a lot of agency and a lot of differentiation really in the team comps. Graves, a very strong skirmish heavy jungler, where already Red, they're picking up themselves a good basis of a very strong team fight. Taking Rel away from Voss as well is something that every team should be looking to do, be it through the bans or be it through this taking, just picking it
Mm-hmm.
up previous to him being able to pick it up. And Azir as well, we didn't quite get to see it last game, but such a strong late game hyper carry that it's always worthwhile taking it for a team fight champion.
Yeah, and on the other side of this, you do still get Graves for Yampi, which I really, really favor, and Was isn't going to be lacking for utility, as apparently neither is Crastiel, who's going to lock in what I can only assume to be the Galio for himself.
Yeah, short of FMB taking even more mid laners up to the top lane, we're going to be seeing the Galio in the mid lane right there. A pretty, it feels like a common answer to the Azir at this point. We've seen it 2 games in a row, and I wonder where this Ezreal priority is coming from here. Picking that one up immediately for Titan just feels a little bit out of place. Taking it into not necessarily the most dive heavy composition in the world either, but maybe anticipating that it would be. At the minute, Vorax have got themselves very good disengage and a very decent engage with an Alistair commit or an Alistair Galio combination. But what they're sort of building on is the potential to go even harder, even faster into their engages. They've got Galio to layer onto the top of somebody who can be an incredibly heavy dive champion, and I feel like that's what we're just missing from Vorex's draft right now, is that final piece that will make this Ezreal pick really strong.
And yeah, I want to know on the other side of this for Vorax, what is their piece that will really bring their team all the way into place. You need somebody still who can actually dive. Right now you've got a lot of follow-up, you've got a lot of ability to engage, but you don't have anybody who will carry through a dive. And Vorax maybe needed to pick up that piece with Camille already banned away, Samira taken away as well. I'm wondering who it's going to be.
The issue that I have with Vorax's draft, right, or not just with Vorax, both of these drafts just seems a little bit a little bit peculiar to me right now. Taking Ezreal so early on, just Vorax at the minute, they can opt into not playing a heavy engage style, and that sort of feels a little bit weird because how are you going to kill the Ezreal? But the Ezreal thrives under being dove upon, and you have Arcane Shift to kite everybody out. But if Vorax just don't play to that and play to a very strong heavy team fight composition where they're able to out DPS the Ezreal, I feel like that'll be something that is just much more beneficial to them. And with Canids here picking up the Skarner, I feel like they've sort of utilized that. Nobody on Vorax is particularly heavy in terms of their carry potential. Yes, maybe Yampi can look pretty strong and can take over team fights, but Matsukaze is going to have an incredible task on his hands right here. There's no real late game DPS hyper carry for Vorax at the minute, and Matsukaze is going to fulfill that mantle where it becomes incredibly easy for Aegis to know what his job is. He just picks Skarner, locks up whoever Matsukaze may lock in here, and take it for himself.
Yeah, Zaya is still available as I look at everything. It's the hyper carry that's really standing out right now. But yes! Yes!
No!
It will be Simmer for Matsukaze. That is
Oh.
exciting. That makes me really, really happy. For anybody who has been keeping up with my horrendous solo queue history, I've been playing a lot of Sivir to no avail, but it is so much fun, and I'm excited to see Matsukaze pilot this. It also, simultaneously, takes away from Red Kalunga in a way that I think they were kind of drafting themselves into. They saw the Alistair Galio and drafted themselves a very anti-dive comp. Now there's nobody
Uh,
that really wants to dive, and you just have strong team fight.
yeah, and that's exactly what I sort of was anticipating. The good thing about Sivir here, it's a very good enabling pick. It's the single best ADC that could have allowed the engage to come through for VRX, and it's going to give Voss here a very decent time trying to find his way through this front line. And obviously, with the On the Hunt, we're going to be seeing very speedy members of Vorax, and it's going to enable FMB once again to try and make their way through the front line and try and dive, find access to Avenger, to Titan. I still feel like Red Canids, they've got the stronger team fight here. I don't see the way of Vorax getting into the backline incredibly easily through Skarner, through Rel, to try and find Avenger and Titan in the backline. The Azir, the Ezreal are in beautiful spots to just be able to pump out damage and be able to just out DPS a Sivir and a Galio as their backline sources with Graves as well. Feels like Red Canids, they've got themselves a decent chance at this team fight here.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say both these teams really do, but it seems like as we get later and later into the games, I'm with you where I favor Red Canids more and more. It's really that mid-game explosiveness that I see the utility
Hmm.
of people like Galio, Alistair, with the damage that comes from people like Sivir and Graves, to be able to take team fights almost by force, just by storming there, starting a team fight and ending it almost as quickly without any real response seems to be the real mid-game explosion point for them. Later game, I think there's no way to go but Red Canids.
Now, and this is where we should touch back on the composite, not the compositions, but the team tendencies. We
Mm.
talked about these two teams being heavy skirmishing and two teams that like to scrap it out, like to get involved in the early game. And in that instance, Vorax have got themselves the dream draft. They have Alistair, they have Sivir. This sort of dream duo of enabling engages and finding the fights coming on through gives Vorax a massive window for them to find advantages and make it so that the late game scaling can never come through. And thinking about it, going back and sort of dissecting it even more, it does feel like Vorax have got themselves a decent position to play out from, but it does put a bit of a big onus of execution on them that they need to be the ones to find the team fight, find the engage, and find the opening, find those advantages. Because if both teams just sit back, have a nice time farming up, Ezreal doesn't care, Azir doesn't care, they're going to be more than happy in a late game team fight to sit back and just pump out the damage, where Vorax are going to have to be the ones finding these engages. And Sivir Galio up against Azir Ezreal, there's no contest there.
No, it's not going to be nearly the same. I've been struggling with I obviously me as a ridiculously high ranked challenger player that chat cannot check in any way.
Disprove. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, exactly. I've been feeling that Sivir, much in the same way as you're expecting, can't pump out the late game damage in any sort of similar way to something like an Azir. Ezreal, on the other hand, I want to see what build he goes for.
All right, so we've seen two Ezreal builds, right? Me and you have had the pleasure, at least, of
Yeah,
being able to cast Apollo Price over in North American Amateur Academy scene, where he's been piloting two different builds. We've got obviously the very standard Man Immune, Divine Sunderer, Last Whisperer, Bork, blah blah blah, boring, boring, boring. Ezreal traditional build, but there's also this new sort of ability haste Ezreal build where you go for Duskblade, you go for Ravenous Hydra, and I forget the first item that he tends in towards,
Essence
but
River.
Essence Reaver, that's it. And I really want to see that one come through. It feels just inherently better. Also, Invisible Ezreal, incredibly funny to see, and incredibly frustrating to play against as well, might I add. So, uh, the Ezreal build is something that I'm glad that we've drawn attention to, and I think that we should definitely be keeping track of at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen actually some people try and run that same build on Sivir. Where
Really?
they go Dark Harvest into Ability Haste and Lethality. I think you skip the Essence Raver and go everything else, and it can get kind of hilarious. It's not
Do
something
you
I
go
expected
Ravenous
to see this
Hydra?
game. Yeah, you are. I've seen it. I've seen them go Ravenous Hydra. Yes,
If it works off of your Ricochet, then that is just hilarious, and I would love to see that one come through.
it does.
That'd be so great.
I think it does once the actual Hydra is completed. You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
like the Tiamat doesn't, but the Hydra does.
No, no, no. Yeah, that happens with the abilities. It's like Camille W, right? Every minion that gets hit gets procced with Ravenous.
Which looks amazing.
My word. Okay, that just sounds hilarious. I'd love to see both of these ADCs just skip the traditional ADC mythics. Go, hey, yeah, these are great. But guess what? We've got we've got lethality. We've got Duskblade. We're just gonna be invisible ADCs. Why not, right?
I mean, it's exactly what you've said to me earlier that the best 80 carries aren't 80 carries; they're assassins. So
True.
may as
There's
well
a
just
reason
call
Kai'Sa
it.
gets banned. There's a reason Kai'Sa gets banned, ladies and gentlemen. It's because she's not actually an AD carry.
Yeah, and Kai'Sa's been looking really, really scary in CBLOL recently. Honestly, just the performances from the 80 carries have been middling, but the actual Kai'Sa damage, because they're all challenger 80 carries and know what they're doing, has been terrifying. It seems like we have a few technical difficulties as we're getting into the game, so VRX versus Red Canids will have to wait just a few seconds longer.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, it's one of those questions where I'd love to just get a quick glance once again back at the draft, but never mind. I don't have to get a glance back because we have ourselves a game in our hands here. And off the bat, there's not going to be anything too disinteresting about the items, the starting runes, anything like that. I mean, we have Grasp in the top lane for both of these top laners, so it's going to be one of those little intricate battles of grasp procking on one another. Who can get the most success out of that? Always going to be interesting and always going to be entertaining, at least to see how that one goes. Gallia with Predator is something to keep your eye on, that he doesn't need level 6 to find engages, needs boots. And that's pretty much it right there. But other than that, everything looks fairly traditional. I expect Aegis to be working himself toward that turbo chem tank very early on. And expect Sivir to be the lead, we'll say, recipient of the Impale.
Yeah, most likely. It's going to be actually a lot on the hunt to keep her from being impaled as well. Um, and knowing exactly when Aegis wants to go. And we were talking about maybe 80 carries not respecting Flash with Skarner. You always have to. You have to be keeping track of that cooldown. And you've got to be buying yourself space because Skarner, in this case, goes very quickly with things like the Turbo Chem Tank. On the Hunt can buy you all of that back. It can keep you safe as Matsukaze, and it can keep Vorax mobile in a team fight. So, looking forward to seeing the use of
Oh,
that right now. Good interrupt from Was, though. It's going to start this off right as Matsukaze does go head to head with Titan there, and the bot lane's already off to a happy start.
ooh, this is big ego right here. Just dodging and firing off skill shots. These guys are ready to fight and ready to start scrapping. Titan missing a couple of Qs onto Matsukaze, who's been very prolific and very able, at least, to dodge away on those skill shots. Voss, though, taking the brunt of the damage right now. So pretty difficult times ahead for both of these bot laners because it is going to be a bit of a skill check matchup. You can already see that they're both more than willing to fight it out, willing to go for these skirmishes. And something that I want to quickly point out as well is that Alistair can be a very good tool into fighting with Skarner, can also be the exact opposite. If the Impale comes through and your headbutt is just a second too slow, then you can unfortunately kill one of your teammates seemingly unintentionally. Because if they get hit by that Skarner ulti and then you send the Skarner much further back, it's basically just a self-made taxi.
That would be really unfortunate. It's like the opposite of when you pick Blitzcrank, or was it Thresh with Skarner? You just
Mm.
rely on the other team to pick Alistair, and you just hope.
Hey, you know what? Just yeah, exactly, and that's where things like Flash can really catch an Alistair off guard because if there's that little bit of space between the carries, Alistair can quite easily hit a headbutt and will be fine. But if it gets flashed over or if it gets flashed in a really awkward mention or dimension rather, you can definitely put yourself at a bit of a disadvantage. But it's all hypotheticals, at least for the time being, whilst we do see Red Canids still trying to battle it out down on this bot side. You can see a slight CS lead opening up already for Titan as he's trying to really take this bot lane to Matsukaze. Very rare that Ezreal finds a laning phase that he's going to win, but even rarer that Sivir gets one herself.
Yeah, and Sivir's not going to be having a good time right now. This is not the low yellow that I'm used to playing in, where hey, interesting, you can't see spires on the map. That was crazy.
No, they took that away. It was it was far too powerful for tracking junglers or tracking pretty much anybody, because you just see that your spire went down. You're like, oh well, that's the enemy jungler, I guess. Free vision given away, but it's not going to be not a thing anymore, unfortunately,
Interesting,
or
interesting.
fortunately.
Depends on who you are. Certainly, if
Mm.
you're well, I guess yeah, it depends on the tempo too, because it doesn't necessarily favor the Skarner team either. Unfortunate, because it gives us a little bit less fun to play with, less map clutter though. Importantly, which helps, especially.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but Senna's little wraith people that she makes.
The mist, the
Yeah, yeah,
souls.
yeah, yeah. No, the wraith people that she makes when you leave Curse of the Black Mist.
Oh yeah. I do.
Dude, those
They
take
got
up
a
an
massive icon on the minimap, right?
dude, they do actually. It's huge. It really like minimap clutter is a big pet peeve. So I guess we're taking away the spires. It's something.
And I want to know why Senna's not being picked up in CBLOL. I'm actually really curious. This composition as well that VRX have drafted for themselves, Senna could have done not necessarily the same thing, but would have done a similar sort of thing with Dawning Shadow over the top. They'd have had an ease of engage with using that Dawn Curse of the Black Mist to shroud Voss on his engages and shroud
Mm.
FNB as he makes his way in as well. And Senna as well, just a better hyper carry than Sivir. Outright, there's no way of putting it other than
Come
that
on,
she is
man.
just
Come
better.
on, man.
And you can root the Skarner as well on his way in. You've got 779,000 range as well if you're picking up souls and fasting effectively. Of course, with an Alistair locked in, we're not expecting the fasting to come through. But Red Canids, meanwhile, whilst we haven't even got Sivir in the game, not much point talking about it. They do pick up the first dragon, and it's to be expected. Titan has been taking this bot lane to Matsukaze and absolutely decimating him in terms of trades, not necessarily the CS numbers, but definitely looking good and able to translate that bot lane priority into a dragon. We do see VRX getting a bit aggressive here, trying to take themselves just a gromp away. Not necessarily the biggest advantage going in favor of VRX, but it's always good nonetheless.
Right now, Vorax claiming a little bit back for themselves. Red surprisingly walking away with that dragon, I'll say. I mean, I do get that Titan, like you say, was taking the bot lane to Matsukaze, but seeing that given over with no vision, no pings, no even contest from Vorax is something that for a team that likes to scrap early on, I was not expecting to happen. This is a team that I thought would very much take away those first couple dragons, and especially an Infernal Dragon that has now been taken out, leaving them with Mountain Dragon next, if they even get that one, is a little spooky.
And going back to what we were expecting from the teams, right? Vorax are both of these squads are teams that want to be fighting early on and look traditionally to find skirmishes. Obviously, the compositions for Red Canids, and this time it's very much in their favor that they don't go for these team fights. And
Mm-hmm.
whilst we've not really seen anything happen for Red Kalunga, they're going to be happy with that one. But for Vorax, what have we seen from their early game? We've seen them take a Gromp away. They've lost a dragon. This isn't what they want. The longer that this game goes on at just an even state, the more and more time it gives for Red to pick up their items, get themselves into that advantageous position to start taking team fights and just vastly outscale Vorax. We touched on it in game number 3 of our day, where we had Azir versus Galio, but it didn't necessarily matter because of the sheer throws that INTZ put down. Um, the outscale is almost certainly there for Red, so if this game continues in a fairly slow state, it's going to be one of those ones that Red are just more than happy to pick up and just take a 3W on.
Now I gotta ask you, dude, what do you think is the mythic that we get Matsukaze going?
Matsukaze, I hope I hope this one's actually Kraken Slayer, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping it's Kraken. I don't think he needs Gale Force. He's got Sivir, he's got Spell Shield, and he's got himself his ulti as well. If he's playing wisely enough, Gale Force on Sivir is something that you can go, and there's a few nice nuances with Boomerang Blade Gale Force that you can do to
Oh.
accidentally pick somebody up, or not accidentally, but cheekily pick somebody up. But I think overall, especially with the composition that they've drafted for themselves, Vorax are going to need as much damage as possible, and something like a Sivir with enough inbuilt safety can opt into that Kraken Slayer.
Yeah, should be a nice pickup here and will help burn through the Skarner, certainly.
Mm.
Right now, Vorax not playing towards that very same Sivir at the moment, instead moving towards the top side to pick up the Rift Herald here, will get themselves the second neutral objective of the game. So we're not seeing a complete forfeiture of the early presence.
No, and we've reached level 6 now across our jungles and across the map pretty much right here. The support's still just a little bit lacking, but that is to be expected. And I think that this is the start of time where people like Aegis can maybe start looking for a play. I'm surprised by the respect that FMB has garnered up on this top side. Obviously, does need to be or can use this Meganor to force out a lot of HP from Guigo, but on the gangplank he should be more than happy to just sort of sit, farm up, and get himself going. But to my point, it's this sort of timing where we can see people like Aegis with that Impale start to maybe make a couple of plays right here. It doesn't need to look too hard for them, but Skarner Ulti is such an incredible tool that you are able to start looking for engages and find yourself maybe this first blood to come on through because we're almost 10 minutes into the game. And in CBLOL, this is pretty undocumented, unprecedented territory that we're going towards. I remember we had a 20-minute first blood a couple of weeks ago, which was actually insane. But we are going to be looking toward this mountain dragon, which spawns in about 50 seconds. I anticipate this would be our first call of action.
Certainly so, because as Vorax, of course, you don't want to give this up. This is kind of your last hurrah at trying to get the ball rolling on an early game that can actually close out. You get the ball rolling any later than this, and you're not going to find too much. Crestiel, though, might be caught by Aegis. Well,
Hmm.
almost certainly is, as he gets Shurima shuffled even further away from his tower. There are less stuns here, but the flash from him buys him space, and he hasn't actually had to expend anything crucial other than that summoner.
Yeah, and that's the sort of heads up play I was looking for. Okay, it was pretty good, but they've wasted flash, and again, good little dash away from Titan right there. Not going to amount to anything down on this bot side. That's probably better for Vorax than it is for Red right there. Flash Skarner ulti is an incredibly powerful tool, and yes, Galio engaged with Flash is pretty big, but nothing too much, or nothing quite parallels a Skarner Flash ulti.
No, it's nice that they, what is it called? Try and make something happen, but it means that they're not going to have that very same unparalleled cooldown right around this dragon that, like we say, Vorax needed to slash wanted to get. Now have evened themselves up in terms of the neutral objectives in the early game and are at a point where they can once again try and fight their way towards something that is a little bit more impactful because they're still an early game team composition. We go in FNB, going toe to toe right now. Whew.
Surprise now. Here comes the Predator though. Crastial just going to be able to not find anything up on that top side right there, unfortunately for him. And I like the point at least that Vorax get themselves this dragon. At this stage in the game, we've surpassed the first couple of minutes of laning phase. We've got past the first or second recall, and Sivir now has wave clear. And Ezreal at no point has wave clear unless we see this Ravenous Hydra come through, and even then it's still very lackluster comparing to the Sivir. So it's very easy for Matsukaze to wrest control of the bot lane and make sure that they can move up to the top side and make sure that that dragon goes in their favor. And pretty difficult for Ezreal to respond in that instance. We do have a Herald spawning, not soon,
Nice.
but at some point, and a lot of people on this top side.
Yeah, we do have Herald dropped here. FNB can't quite escort it in with zero health, but there are four people in the top side right now. Whether Vorax know it or not, there's a big commitment of resources right now, and it's giving Matsukaze time to pick up plates on his own. So Rift Herald, oddly enough, still gets them plates.
Yeah, and this is the very rare instance where Herald gets called on one side of the map, and you flip the Uno reverse card and send all four members down to the bot side here to try and make something happen. You could see that Titan was there ready to respond to the Rift Herald, but quite rightly, as you'd alluded to, Matsukaze just spends his time down there, pretty much free hitting on these turrets, picking up those where's and where he can. And Guigo might look for an all in here.
Oh, the Meganar does get hit, though. The orange is frame perfect. Guigo gets stunned by the wallop, and
Hmm.
First Blood surprisingly goes over to FNB when Guigo was so confident.
I don't know why he was confident either. He's staring down Meganar. He doesn't use flash at all. That's not going to kill even if it hits. Saving flash, big question mark. Fighting when you're a level down, even bigger question mark for me at least. Just look right, level 9 to level 10, and yes, you get yourself a good barrel opening, but Rage Bar is perfect for FNB right here.
Hmm.
He manages to hit the Nara, and great, you W it, but FNB just kites out of the cannon barrage, steps on in, boulder toss, very straightforward for him. It's not too difficult at all, and again, not using your flash there from Guigo, criminal to be honest.
I think if he dodges that wall up, he's got a chance. Like it's
Oh,
not.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If he does manage to invest the flash there, I think maybe just a little bit of misplay towards the top side because you see the dream as a as somebody who has gone for one too many of those. I see the hope in his eyes, but it gets crushed out there and does give a big advantage over to FNB, who had more or less been going even up until this point.
Yeah, and it's just something that Red didn't need to go for, unfortunately. And as you say, I can respect the want and the determination, the desire
Mm.
to try and pick up some advantages and maybe start snowballing the game in your favor. But you can see how much this is now hurting him. He's still down this level, and I know I talk about levels a lot here. So I did some maths and I did some research here about how much this really means in terms of
Hmm.
gold values. Typically, on an increase per level, marksmen's, mages, and generic top laners, quote quote, I'll say. So things like the Gnar, like the GP here, they gain about 500 gold in terms of base statistics per level, and that is something to keep into account. Where I always talk about the quote intangibles here of
Mm.
of levels and gold lead that gives you. So there's a 500 gold lead in terms of the statistics that FNB has got from base stats from being an extra level, and that on top of the fact that he's going to have so much more gold in his inventory, he's just going to be so far ahead of the GP. And if we do see this continual snowball up on the top side, Guigo going to be looking to really struggle here.
I've got to figure out as well, not just for marksman, but like what that means for tanks as well, and what Nar is considered, because he
Mm.
does sort of ride that line. There's a lot of nuance to the stat, but I think that's a really good way of putting it. Is to give us that 500 gold frame point to look at. And now, I mean, it can kind of be solidified with the stride breaker that FNB has just picked himself up. And actually, almost all the mythics are complete. Double Gale Force, there's a lot of blue here.
Lots of blue. You're quite right. There is indeed a lot of blue here. Stridebreaker got that Hextech alternator as well, a very core item for most AP mages. I'm quite happy to see that a lot of people are starting to pick that up, and would love to see more champions just sit on an alternator as well. Incredibly gold efficient item in its own right. But Guigo caught out again on this top
Oh my
side.
lord, does he just go down right here? FNB almost kills him, forced to invest the flash defensively, but there's a fight starting on the other side of this. Impale drags Crastiel under the tower, and he's not tanky enough to withstand that. Avenger going aggressive on FNB actually forces the flash out in the opposite way. Interestingly enough, I did not expect that.
No, and the very rare use of Skarner being used as a disengage tool right there. They pull on Crastiel back underneath the turret. They're able to get themselves a quick kill, a quick pick up there. It is in the hands of the Skarner, so not necessarily the brightest box
Wow.
to have it expended in, but either way, double TPs come on down, and of course with Titan taking TP on the Ezreal here, they are able to get into the map, get onto this Cloud Dragon, and pick that one up for themselves. It might not seem like an important soul, but a champion like Skarner really does benefit from the Cloud Soul if you're able to get it. Not only does he get a load of ability haste so that the Impale is up more often, but also picking somebody up and then moving even faster away from the enemies always looks good.
That's actually true. I think Cloud Soul might be the most valuable on Skarner now that you say it, just because of the ability to change the distance very rapidly. It does opt into FNB taking some topside farm that'll be answered by Guigo. So VRX, I think in this scenario, just straight up losing.
Yep,
Mm.
I agree. We're sat here. We're still waiting for that Vorax early game snowball that we were waiting to come through. Yes, they've got themselves a 1,500, 2,000 gold lead here, but there's a couple of turrets in their favor, couple of CS leads starting to amass themselves, but that's not enough for me to be convinced. And here comes the engaged bot lane as well, flashing pale and Castiel pretty tanky, but could just fall.
It's surprising to me the amount of priority that we see on Crastiel pickups from Aegis. We haven't seen him hovering Matsukaze's lane at all. Hasn't even gone for FNB. Instead, just constantly hounding this Galio. And I see why. I see, you're eliminating a big part of the front line for Vorax, but it's odd. It's a weird thing to say.
The thing is that they're funneling Titan in that instance, so I can
Hmm.
understand it. They get another kill on their AD carry. They get the kill onto the Ezreal. We
God
see
rest his
Essence
soul.
Reaver picked up for him, which almost suggests that we're going to be picking up that Duskblade and ability haste esque build coming on through. Avenger going to be a little bit zoned out of mid lane right here, and obviously doesn't have the wave clear to compete with a Sivir by any chance, by any margin. So going to be losing that mid lane push. You can see that Varrock's putting a lot of priority on keeping their mid tier one alive. But here comes Jojo.
Oh my lord, the triple ultimate from him as well. Pulls everybody back in, but Crastiel has arrived, gets a double taunt, and there's your funnel already gone. Red Canids need to back off, and FNB's looking for Avenger. Does not get the Gnar into the wall, but VRX walk away with 2 picks off of a fight that Red start.
Yeah, beautiful stuff from Voss there actually to knock up Titan and make his life just an absolute misery, and he gets taken out of the game right there. You can't arcane shift forward when all these cooldowns are still available for the Alistair, and they are going to be rewarded with a tier 1 turret as well, so they're going to have completed the outer sweep right here.
Hmm.
And of course, Guigo, who didn't have teleport, was trying to fire down the cannon barrage, but just wasn't enough to turn the tides of the team fight back in their favor. Guigo going to be picking himself up that quick turret, and FNB, I'm not sure who's caught right here because you're walking into Varex's territory, but Guigo's right there.
He just is real fast right now. Has the Impale as well, so this should be FNB going down. But Was is on the roam over. If he can just buy a little bit of time, he could go Mega. And FNB does, gets the double wall up, the double Gnar, and almost finishes off Red. Aegis just barely gets the shield, but it's not enough. They turn the fight, and Vorax clean up 3 members of Red in their jungle as everybody shows up and gets knocked down one by one.
Oh, devastation for Red right there, and that could cost them in a massive way right here. Baron getting started up by Vorax. Now, Red Canids, they've got themselves their 2 best members for stopping this. Ezreal can
Uh,
put out consistent poke, Avenger can do the exact same thing right here. Vorax needs to be incredibly careful. As Titan and Avenger, they're going through the front door here. They want to stop this.
They want to take a fight right now. Matsukaze does need to position really appropriately, but the Baron is so low,
Look at
and the
Boss.
smite does get used. Boss, like you say, on the flank, picks up Avenger, and now Titan is almost predicted there. Does get taken down by Yumpy. That was really nice.
Jeez, it's taken 20 minutes here, dear, but finally Vorax put their stamp into the game. They're 6,000 gold to the good. They've got the Baron. They've got themselves everything that they could possibly hope for in this sort of mid-game stage that we've broached right now. Again, it's very reminiscent of the previous game where Red, they lose themselves just a little bit, and then they chase, they overextend to try and claw it back, and then it gets turned around, and then the sort of snowball goes even further down the hill than it was previously. You know, they were at a point where they could have easily come back from, and unfortunately, they just miss out on the opportunity to do it again. And Vorax, they net themselves the Baron, and it's a really good capitalization from them to recognize, hey, these guys are overstepping. Let's punish them here. Let's not let them just try and punish us for this. And they pick themselves up the Baron. They pick themselves up a load of kills as well. Sivir, 2.5 items right now, working toward that Infinity Edge. Going to be looking incredibly strong, and everything is looking good for Vorax. It's Voss finding those unique engage angles that was able to pick up Avenger in the end right there. And if he's continually able to do that, see no reason for Vorax to maybe start putting a few more pieces in this end game puzzle.
God, FNB is so annoying in this top lane. He keeps stunning Aegis, and Was, doing it once again, is going to force them actually back under the tower now that Baron has arrived. Vorax are going to be able to take down yet another tier 2, and I mean, as soon as they retreat, we've got Cloud Dragon waiting for them as well.
And that is obviously something that they don't necessarily need to go for right now. They're trying to make the most of their Baron, and for a single stat of ability haste on their ultis, not something that they're particularly interested in right now. They want to be making the most of this full power players. Yampy,
Yumpy just barely gets out alive, but can't quite
yes,
dodge from
Titan.
Titan. Titan finds the shutdown. Was now served up a lot of damage, has the unbreakable will to try and survive it, but a good Gnar into the wall takes down 2 members. The heroic entrance knocks up another couple, but the Shurima shuffle takes 2 people under the tower. It's not quite enough damage, and Avenger gets taken down by the CC train in the back line. Aegis, not long for the world as the winds of war finish him off, and Vorax get to continue the push against all odds. Red Canids cannot find their fight. Vorax keep outplaying them.
It looks so good here, and that could just be the game. Death timers are long, but they're sort of teetering right here. It looks like double inhib is going to be the call. Maybe they could have got themselves a Nexus turret as well if they were particularly feeling it, but with minions spawning, is just going to be two inhibitors going down. And that fight to start with looked incredibly strong for Red Canids. They picked themselves up. Titan, Yompi off the start. Titan was still alive, still free firing. But no, FNB able to find the engage, able to find the return, the re-engage coming on through. They get Hero's entrance over the top. And what you can't do this late in the game as Azir is go for those big shuffles and not catch everybody. You can't be left out in the lurch. You need to be the one that is dishing out the damage and going in for those big hero plays. It looks good, it looks fancy, but Titan's dead, Guigo's dead. You're the only source of DPS here. Who are you funneling them into? You need to be funneling them into yourself and dishing out damage, because if you're going to get knocked up off the back of it, it's just not worth it.
No, right? And it's tough because, Avenger doesn't want to be playing the game when Guigo and Titan are dead. But at the same time, there's not much to do about that when FNB is going so aggressive, finding these great Gnars, and there's so much damage from the rest of VRX to back it up. You get hit by 1cc, you're getting hit by all of them, and a truckload of Silver Boomerangs to back it up.
And as well, look at the damage that Titan was putting out on FNB right there. Seemingly non-existent. This guy's picked up Randuin's Ninja Tabi. Azir has to be the one to shred through this now because nobody else can on the team. Fortunately enough, Avenger is at 2 items. He's got himself Liandry's to deal with the tankiness, and he's got himself Nash's Tooth as well to have that consistent DPS coming on through. But this is that same situation that we talked about in game number 4 or game number 3 right here, where Red, they're down 2 inhibitors. They're trying to defend their final one, and if they spend too long, the minions are going to do the work in the side lane in the bot side of the map, and they're going to be able to find the Nexus turrets. Aegis has to look for an engage and has to find something. Him and Jojo are the two that are looking for these fights, and when Rel has flash, you always need to be careful.
Crestiel, yes, winning the game. He walks in with a few super minions, gets a bop on the tower, and all of a sudden the softening up that was done with that true shot barrage from Titan doesn't really mean as much because VRX get to chunk out the top lane last inhibitor remaining tower as well. Matsukaze's more than got the wave clear for this, but it seems like the slow push is the call.
And it's difficult to push into Red when you don't have the Baron. They've got Guigo, just decimates waves with barrels. Unfortunately, Red aren't looking for too many fights, I suppose, right here. But what they're doing now is getting corralled, and Vorax should be able to maybe take down this bot inhibitor or bot lane or bot side Nexus turret. And it's because Red haven't gone for the engage. They're down so much gold at this point that the fact that their team composition would outscale doesn't matter at this point, right? We're not at those 6-7 items, incredible 6-item stage, but now they're looking for it.
Yeah,
but look at what's going on the top side.
Aegis is going for it right now. Matsukaze does manage to take down the tower, and the Impale still hasn't been used. Yompi in a lot of trouble. Flashes and cleanses away to buy time for Crashgiel to tank this one up for him. Instead, though, on his way out, doesn't quite have the damage, and FNB is caught on the wrong side of dodge with no help to him. Does have the Gnar available if he chooses to use it, but needs to buy time from him. Between him and Aegis, eats a barrel on the way out, but Wasp re-engages, finds Titan with the knockup, and FNB stuns 2 into the wall to keep them from backing him up. Matsukaze goes down, but so does Guigo, so does Avenger, and so are the rest of Red Canids. Vorax are chasing them down, cleaning them up. FNB has the damage, and Aegis is the last one left alive with nothing else to do but impale FNB into the fountain to find a single kill for himself. The shutdown comes in, but Vorax, they are on your Nexus towers rather, and they are winning the game. Aegis has nothing to do but stand here and watch as Vorax surprisingly outmaneuver and outstyle Red Canids.